Devin McEwen is the real deal. Number 3 at wide receiver. You know, as you and I were sitting on the sideline the other day, the biggest takeaway was Legend Bay is what they say he is. Devin Sanchez is a big man. I've stood next to him. I'm 6'2". He's long about my size. And we share the same physique. I'm just joking.
That's right. I got to interview Tim May last week. We met at Ohio State's fall training camp, and I got to ask him some crucial questions regarding Ohio State for 2026. So I'm going to play you the interview now. I hope you guys all enjoy. All right, yeah, so the first question I wanted to ask, since we met at training camp, what was your biggest takeaway and your biggest player from spring this year? Or from training camp?
Well, training camp and spring. Devin McEwen is the real deal. Number 3 at wide receiver, and they might be able to use him in other ways. But just, you know, as you and I were sitting on the sideline the other day, the biggest takeaway was Legend Bay is what they say he is, in my opinion. And that's a guy we hadn't seen even the first 2 days of training camp. Now, who knows what's going to happen between now and the start of the year, because we'll never get to watch these guys practice since then. But when you add that kind of weapon to what they've already got offensively, either coming back or they gained in the transfer portal, like Jacoby Jackson, the running back from Florida, I thought he looked pretty good the other day. They weren't playing real football. They had shoulder pads on, but they weren't tackling. You understand what I'm saying? But I just think the way they have added additional weapons to what Julian's saying could take advantage of or exploit just jumps out at you.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I think on the second day, Devin McEwen really broke out. He didn't do much that third day when we were there, or when I was there. But yeah, I'm excited about Devin McEwen. That kind of leads me into my second question. Is there a chance that Chris Henry Jr. starts in 2026? And if he does that happen earlier in the season or later in the season?
Choice question. So number 1, I can see him starting sometime this season. Who knows if it's off the jump. I mean, I know, there is some allegiance there, definitely, to Brandon Ennis as the second receiver next to Jeremiah Smith. But I mean, who knows if they send 3 wide receivers out for the start of the game against Ball State, the first formation, there's a chance that Chris Henry Jr. could be in it. There's also a chance that Devin McEwen could be in it. So, but I see Chris Henry Jr., let me put it this way. I see Chris Henry Jr. barring injury or getting banged up as a regular in the lineup. That doesn't necessarily mean you start. You know how the start thing goes. It's kind of like a misnomer to a certain extent because it depends on the formation they send out there. But I see him being a regular in the lineup sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the biggest differences from Brian Hartline to Cortez Hankton was Hartline never rotated guys. Cortez Hankton at LSU the fan base almost had a problem with him because he rotated so many receivers. That was at LSU. Now at Ohio State, where you have 5 or 6 starting caliber receivers, where you could see Jeremiah, Chris Henry, Devin McEwen, Brock Boyd, Brandon Ennis, and Chris Henry Jr. all getting an even amount of snaps. I mean, aside from Jeremiah. But yeah, I think that is one thing that I'm really looking out for is like, are we going to see Chris Henry have 20, 30 snaps against Texas, or will it be more Devin McEwen?
Yeah, we can talk about Cortez Hankton and what he's done, but I mean, that will be definitely up to, for the most part, up to Ryan Day and then Arthur Smith too, on whether they think those guys are capable of carrying the load in terms of rotating on a continuing basis. Cortez Hankton will have obviously a huge say in that, but the thing that you just pointed out is they have the capability of everybody you just named playing a lot this year.
The third question that I wanted to ask was when I was there, my dad came down with me, and one of the things that he pointed out was compared to last year, the size of the defense looks small. I think part of that was we were next to the offensive linemen, the tight ends, Jeremiah, Chris Henry. These are all really big guys. And aside from Kenyatta and maybe James Smith, when you look at the linebackers compared to what we had last year, and like Igbinosun was a tall corner, the secondary in the back seven of the defense looks smaller. Are you concerned about the size of the defense at all in 26?
Yeah, well, I don't get concerned about anything. I just look at it. Are they concerned about it? Devin Sanchez is a big man at corner. I've stood next to him. I'm 6'2". He's long about my size, height-wise, and we share the same physique. I'm just joking. I like him a lot. Obviously, Earl Little Jr. is I don't know. He's a little bit smaller than Caleb Downs, but I like Jalen McClain. From a size standpoint, I think they will hold their own. Let me put it that way. I mean, people are nuts if they think an Arvell Reese is going to walk in the door every year or stick around for an extra year if he's there. Same way with Sonny Styles. Those guys, in their own ways, were physical freaks. So it's not really fair to compare because every linebacker is different, obviously. I mean, I've been covering this team for 43 years, and you never know what it's going to look like from time to time. I think what you're seeing defensively, I think Matt Patricia as a coordinator, and then like you were talking about Cortez Hankton in the wide receiver room rotating guys, I think they want to play quite a few guys this season because in their mind they're going to play a minimum 16-game season. So they're going to want to play a lot of guys because they're, 7-8 new starters on the defensive side. And some guys, might turn out to be better gamers than they are practice players to begin with. But, you're looking at freshman Jay Timmons. He could end up playing a role definitely in the defense, maybe sooner rather than later on the backside. So I don't know. I'm curious like you are, Terry Moore. I'm just curious how he comes around, et cetera. So I think what we're seeing now is that what we're going to see in November. I think that remains to be seen. But James Smith is a big guy, and so is John Walker. So those were two major pickups they got in the portal, places where they needed guys. And then of course, Quay Russaw, I'm curious to see how they use him and how he comes along. I mean, when you get two guys from Alabama who were highly respected as recruits, et cetera, Quay Russaw and James Smith, and I think James Smith has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because as soon as he left Alabama, a lot of people started taking shots at him. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the defense plays. But I asked Matt Patricia the other day, this is going to be different from last year. People have to kind of get used to that. How is Matt Patricia going to deploy this defense is what's the most curious thing going into the season.
Yeah, and that was kind of the thing that I was really shocked about was that Bo Atkinson was starting over Quay. That was one of the big things that everyone's kind of talking about. Okay, aside from Kenyatta, is it going to be Quay? Is it going to be Zion? And it looks like Bo, who didn't do much last year aside from that Texas game and like starting snaps wise, might have a really big impact on the defensive line this year.
Yeah, I think they wanted to see him definitely develop from where he came in, basically almost this time a year ago, right? From where he came in to what he became near the end of the year. But they're really upperclassmen. You want to see that guy, really step up. So I think they've got the makings there. But Zion Grady, I mean, you could see the potential in that guy. And then Quay Russaw, man, you talk about quick twitch. So, like I said, things are not going to look exactly the same as they did a year ago. One of the things is as you pointed out, from a physical standpoint, they're not. I'm talking about physically in appearance. Not that they're not going to be physical, but physically in appearance, they're going to definitely, as a defense, is going to look different. And I think, pardon the pun, I think anybody can see that.
Yeah, so we've talked a bit about the offense and the defense. I want to ask you this. What do you define as a successful season for Ohio State in 26? Obviously, it's beat Michigan, but is it a Big Ten championship? Then how far in the playoff do you think they need to go for it to be a successful season?
Yeah, the bottom line is they go into every year. The number one thing is to beat Michigan, as you well know, and then the next thing is to play for the Big Ten championship. But the beauty of the modern game, the modern era, which is the playoff era, is you can still make the playoffs and win a national championship, which is what they did 2 years ago without beating Michigan, without even playing for a Big Ten championship. I think anymore, and fans are going to have to probably get used to this more than the players and the coaches. Anymore, you want to get to the playoff, and you want to get to the playoff fairly healthy and have a shot at the national championship. With that said, whenever you're playing for hardware, and of course the Michigan game, you're playing for a little set of gold pants. Who knew how valuable those was? They had become trinkets almost up until 2021 when Michigan finally broke the spell, and now they're valuable again, kind of like the price of gold, right? And then obviously you want to win a Big Ten championship because a trophy comes with that. So, those are there are only three things a trophy or a trinket comes with, or a keepsake comes with. That's a Michigan game, winning the Big Ten championship, and then winning the national championship. You can hang a banner about getting to the semifinals, but who cares about that?
Yeah, and then the last question that I wanted to ask you today, and this is more personal towards you. So you have been covering Ohio State since 1984, is that correct?
Yes.
So you have covered, and Juck told me to ask this to you. You have covered under Earl Bruce, John Cooper, Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, and then now Ryan Day. What is the most notable thing from each one of those five head coaches that you have covered?
Well, you left out Luke Fickell, too, for that year. He got kind of cast into a very tough spot, but it was a full season. Earl Bruce was the guy that followed Woody Hayes. That took a lot of chutzpah. And he started out like a ball of fire, but, he got into that 9-3 rut and had that 10-win year when they beat Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl and got fired the next year. I liked the way Earl Bruce persevered after catching a lot of flack. Number one. Number two, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame, so he was pretty good. John Cooper came in with a different way of looking at things, including recruiting, and they really hit the road from a national level. It took a while for them to carve out that niche, but I keep telling people, if there had been playoffs in the mid-'90s, Ohio State would have been in probably 4 or 5 of them. And instead, they just missed out that first year of the Bowl Championship Series, the BCS, of playing for the national championship. Obviously, he's, as I've always said, John Cooper, his careers at Ohio State is like a brilliant scarlet tie with a splotch of mustard right in the middle of it after going 2-10-1 against Michigan. That's unfortunate because he is the second winningest coach in Ohio State history. And then with Jim Tressel, that's pretty obvious. He took what John Cooper left behind, added a little bit to it, and won a national championship in his second year. And I don't know how you describe that except describing it in that way. He got it done and benefited from the BCS model, but what he did in 2002 with that team, because you remember 2001, his first year, wasn't a whole lot to write home about. And 2002 is when he got it done. That cemented him. And I guess my point, he really brought back the feel of you're playing for Ohio, you're playing for Ohio State, meaning to the players, to the program, a lot of the tradition, etc. And of course, when you beat Michigan, when you go 9-1 against Michigan, that's a lot of gold pants that were distributed under his reign. Luke Fickell thrown into a tough spot. The only coach he got to hire was his good friend, best friend, Mike Vrabel, who's gone on to fame, a little bit of infamy, obviously, over the offseason this year, but 2-time National Football League Coach of the Year. But he was stuck with a really tough situation there. I thought he dealt with it well. He'd never been a head coach. And I thought he dealt with it very well, considering what he was left with when Jim Tressel had to resign. Then past that, we all know what Urban Meyer brought.
Mm-hmm.
Urban Meyer was a son of Ohio, came in, had won 2 national championships, had great expectations, had a plan. All of these guys had plans, but Urban Meyer came in like the team had been losing for 10 years in a row and turned things around, I don't know, fairly quickly. They had the one losing season under Luke Fickell only because they had to play a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, they didn't get to play a bowl game with Urban Meyer. But my point is, he brought back that hard-nosed edge to Ohio State. Urban wasn't really into, like, making a lot of friends. He was into making tough football players. He knew the buttons to push. He was a great button pusher as a head coach, meaning what makes you upset, and I'm going to push it until you get something done about it. And then, of course, Ryan Day was shoved into a 3-game deal there as a head coach. Had never been a head coach before at the start of 2018. Then in 2019 he took over, and we've seen Ryan Day write the textbook, if you're paying attention, the new way that head coaches have to deal with things in this new era of the transfer portal and the NIL and everything else that goes along with it. We have seen him grow right in front of our eyes into one of the maybe top 2 or 3 elite coaches in the country. And that's what stands out to me about him. But in essence, I covered, I got to know Woody Hayes too, by the way, back in the day.
Oh, wow.
But I covered, but in terms of coverage, I've covered Earl Bruce, John Cooper, Jim Tressel, Luke Fickell, Urban Meyer, and now Ryan Day, and all but Luke Fickell are in the College Football Hall of Fame. You got to figure Ryan Day's going to be in it because he's won a national championship and has as good a winning record as there is in college football right now. So it's been quite the run with completely different kind of dudes with one thing in common. They understand what Ohio State's all about in their own way, and they've worked to build on that. And I think each one left it better than they got it, with the exception maybe of Earl, but Earl persevered. I mean, who wants to follow Woody Hayes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he did.
Yeah, was there a little bit of animosity when Urban came here, because this was a couple years after he destroyed us in the national championship when he was at Florida? Was there a little bit of animosity when he first got to Ohio State?
No, number one, he'd been gone from Florida for a season. You know, he basically retired because he was burnt out at Florida. No, I think people saw it as exactly what the program needed. The guy had won 2 national championships. And, that's pretty much the goal at Ohio State anymore is win a national champion, fly far and win the national championship. I didn't notice any animosity. I mean, I thought people were welcome to have him. I mean, he was the son of Ohio. You know, he told you many times he was back where he was born and was very much looking forward to the challenge. So I don't know if anybody would have any animosity about that.
All right, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for joining me today. It was really nice meeting you at training camp. It was really nice talking to you today.
Same here, my friend. Same here. Be in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. OH.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I gave him an OH at the end and he left me hanging. But aside from that, it was so fun getting to talk to him for that 15-20 minute interview. I hope you guys all enjoyed. And if you have not considered subscribing yet, it would mean the world to me. We're trying to get to 700 subscribers before the start of week 1. So if you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button and consider watching the video on screen now. Who knows, it might be the best video you've ever seen. You just have to click on it.